Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us, MBLA students and parents. My name is Daphne Adler, and I'm one of the counselors here at Los Altos. This is a workshop about Common App supplemental essays within Countdown to College. If this is not the workshop that you meant to attend, you can go back out into the main Countdown website and redirect to another workshop, and we will get started. So this is a really, really important topic. Sometimes students feel like supplemental essays are kind of an afterthought or a little bit of a mystery, and they get a little bit left to the side or to the end, and they end up being a little bit rushed. And we're having this workshop because these essays are actually really, really important, and to illuminate a little bit about that. So I'm going to the next half hour talking you through these. This workshop is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch later. All right. So what is a supplemental essay? So students for Common App are going to write their main essay, sometimes called personal statement, which is a max of 650 words. So that's kind of their long one. In addition to that, some colleges will also require or offer what's called supplemental essays. And those are extra essays that a student is writing just for that school. They might be required, they might be optional, in which case I would always suggest don't think of them as optional because it's another opportunity for students to give them more information. Not all schools require them, but many of the more selective universities do. They want to know more about the student. So these are pretty common. It's nice to have some universities without them, but do expect that if you're applying to a lot of Common App schools, both private and public, a number of them do have them. They may be short, they may be just as long as the personal statement. There might be one, there might be multiple. So every school is going to be a little bit different. All right, so why are these important? As I mentioned, it's another opportunity for students to tell that school about. They're getting so many, so many transcripts, so many essays, and now with testing being largely optional, this is another way that you can give them more. So they're trying to learn some of these things that are on the slide about you. How much do you know about their school? How much have you researched? Are you going to be a good fit in their student community? That's really, really, really important. And it's a match. Sometimes students think of being admitted to a college as winning a prize, and it's really making a match with the right schools where you are going to have a great experience that you're looking for, and they are going to benefit from you being on their campus. So reciprocal relationship there. They also want to know, how does your mind work? What are your values? Are you passionate about something? Those sorts of things. And if you've put effort into these, and I'll give you an example later of a way that one could not put effort into it that does not pay off. But they want to see that you've put effort into these and some thought. All right. So what do they mean? Like, why are they asking you, right? And in addition to wanting to learn about you, there are a couple more things. So think of these as ways to learn more about them, as well as them learning about you. They are giving you clues as to like their values, the kind of information that they want to learn, and the type of peers that the student's going to be surrounded by. So all of these really help students to determine what kind of fit a school is going to be, like kind of puzzle pieces. How many? So as I mentioned before, it could be one, it could be multiple, so it depends on the school. And this first bullet here, so important. This is where balanced and intentional decision-making come in. We counselors are always telling students, balance, right? They've heard that over and over from their counselors throughout all their years at Los Altos. It is so important, not only in their schoolwork, but also applying the concept of balance in their college applications. If a student is applying to a whole bunch of Common App schools, and that might be on top of UC, CSU, maybe some other platforms, So they're writing a ton of essays, right? So let's say they're applying to a whole bunch of Common App schools and like 10 of them have additional essays. That is a massive amount of work. And really, it makes the senior year extremely stressful. And it's just not super feasible to write the students' best possible essays when they are, writing this many and they're spread very thin. So this is where students will want to make some decisions, like how interested are they in a given school? If a student's like, no, it's not really on the top of my list. Oh, they have 3 supplemental essays. It's okay to decide not to apply to that school because you don't want to write that many. Okay, there's plenty of other schools. So give that some thought, students, as you are picking your schools, because it's not just the main essay. They may also have additional ones. Sometimes you might have the opportunity to kind of borrow or recycle some material for different essays. Like they might ask you about, tell us about a extracurricular activity that you really love. So that's not necessarily specific to a college, although you might want to kind of sprinkle in a little bit of stuff that you found on their website that you're excited about there, right? But the bulk of that essay, you might be able to use in different places, right? Just depending on what colleges are asking. But largely, you really do have to write these individually. All right. And where do you find them? If you're wondering like, okay, well, how do I find out how many they have? So you can find them in a couple of places. So on Common App, once a student creates their account, and juniors can create their account junior year, and then the system will flip to the current, or to, I should say, to the next cycle on August 1st. So if you are a junior right now, you can create your account. You can add colleges to your list. You can look at their current questions that they had for this year. It's subject to change, but you kind of get the idea. I would say don't start writing them yet in case they change, but then the Common App system will flip to the class of 2024 admission cycle in August. So you can look in Common App, and very often you can just Google the college name and supplemental essays, and make sure you're looking at the current year. But yeah, typically you can see that. And again, just to at least get a rough idea. All right, what kinds of questions? So super important to know. There are a variety of topics. We're seeing kind of trends over recent years. So a very typical one is some version of why us? Why do you want to come to our school? Why here? Why do you think you're a fit? And those questions can be worded in different ways. I'll show you some examples in a moment. Why are you interested in your major? And they might say, why do you want to study your major here? So kind of a combination of those two things. We are seeing a lot of questions now around community, diversity, inclusion, identity. Those are things that every college is like looking at themselves to determine if they are a diverse campus, and they are they're doing they've got different initiatives to help to increase their own diversity. And one of those ways to do that is to ask applicants, what's your place in this world? And how do you interface with people who are different than you? Some schools, I would say to a lesser degree, but we do still see this, might ask like some kind of a philosophical question or academic opinion. Largely, these are not academic essays, though. They really want to learn about you. Personal interest. There's some super fun questions. Like, I don't remember what school it was, but a few years ago, there was a question that was like, what does YOLO mean to you? Kind of fun. They might ask about, what do you geek out on? What's your favorite book or movie? And I love those questions, actually, because I think they learn a lot more about you that way. So again, clues as to their values. They're trying to find out really, truly who you are, who's coming on their campus. And then lastly, things around experiences of personal growth. They might ask you about challenge you overcame or something to that effect. Okay, why us? So this is, as I said, a really common one. So these are some that I grabbed from a few really popular colleges that our students apply to. So Boston University asks, what are you most excited about there? Tufts asks which aspects of the experience are prompting you to apply. Michigan wants to know, describe the unique qualities that attract you to the specific undergraduate college or school to which you're applying at the University of Michigan. How would your curriculum support your interest? So that's kind of a multifaceted version of that. So you kind of get the idea. And some of them are very simple, just like, why do you want to come to X university? So lots of ways that could be worded. And these need to be very, very specifically written to each school. An example of a diversity prompt, we have tons of students that apply to University of Colorado Boulder, and their question is, at University of Colorado Boulder, no two buffs are alike. Buffs are their mascot. We value difference and support equity and inclusion of all students, and there are many intersecting identities. Pick one of your unique identities and describe its significance. A lot of students get really stuck on this because the definition of identity can mean a lot of different things, right? So there's no right or wrong answer for these kinds of questions. They're looking to see, how do students think about this? How are they reflecting on, again, like their place in all the different communities in their lives? And then how are they like showing up to their campus? All right, and what should a student write about? So really very similar principles as they're applying to the common main essay and to the UC PIQs, personal assigned questions. So they're going to want to write about experiences that have shaped them, student experiences that are unique, that fewer students are likely to write about, or if a student's writing about something fairly common, sports or music or ASB, all great experiences, you'll want to write about them through like sort of a unique angle that is going to be a little bit different than most other people writing about those topics. And lastly, things that showcase your best qualities and your values. And you also want to make it clear that you've researched that school by including specific details. So that is like the very best way to find out about a school is, of course, to visit. If you are not able to visit, or at least not by the time you're applying, then website research is a great way to find out more, talk to people who are attending or have attended. And this is a fine line because you also don't want to be copying and pasting from their website because they're pretty savvy about that. So they want to know that students have gone more than 2 clicks deep into the website, in other words, and they're finding parts of the experience at that college that they connect to. All right. So what you don't want to do is this. Writing some version of, I like this school because the campus is pretty, they have lots of clubs, and there's a good program in business, biology, whatever it is you're majoring in. You could copy and paste that anywhere, and it tells any given college absolutely nothing about you. It does not show you've researched their school. You're not telling them anything that's giving them insight into your interest, your character, things like that. If a student doesn't know what else to write beyond this, they need to be diving into research to find out more and doing some brainstorming because there's a lot to be learned about every given college, and this just simply isn't helpful and isn't going to get them isn't going to be of any value in the application. All right. So again, students often think of these as kind of an afterthought, or like, oh, they're really quick and easy because they're usually shorter, right? They might be 100 words, 200 words. They can be longer, but very often they're short. And so a lot of thought isn't always put into them. When they're short, sometimes they're even harder because you have to cram so much into a very small number of words. If you're trying to distill like an important experience that you had into 100 to 200 words, it's really hard. So you want to really set aside the time. And I really recommend to students to do a lot of research on the front end as you are building your college list. And it might sound kind of tedious. It might be kind of a pain. You want to sit down with either, open up a new Google Doc or a notepad or whatever way helps you to note down stuff, because this is what you're going to need. If you're looking at a website going, oh, cool, you're not going to maybe remember that 6 months later, right? So write down the stuff that you thought was cool. And then when you sit down to write these essays, You just open that up and there it is, all your thoughts that you had when either you visited, and if you visit, definitely take notes. You visited, you researched the website, you talked to someone who went, write these things down, because this is when you're going to pull that out of your back pocket. And if you are, a week out from your deadline and you're like, oh yeah, I got to write these extra essays, and you haven't really researched, it's so hard at that point to go and spend a couple of hours looking at their website and trying to find like, what are the right things to grab, right? So do this part up front. You will save yourself so much time. It'll be way less stressful. So really, really ultra important. Okay. How do you find the right information? That's a great question, because these college websites are absolutely packed with information. Some of them are really similar looking, like they'll have, a menu at the top with like different options. Some of them look kind of different. Some are built better than others, where it's more clear to find the information. So you'll want to just click around, get familiar with how they're set up. For example, they're going to have typically an academic section where you can see like what are the different majors and different academic options, departments, sometimes the curriculum for a given major. Student life, you want to be looking at what do they have on campus? What are you doing outside of class time, right? You want to be thinking about like what's the like cost of attendance, looking at support that you might need there, all these different aspects, housing, etc. And so that's again why you want to spend some time researching, because there's really no right answer to this question. It's going to be different for everyone. Which parts of the experience do you connect with? That's going to be different for somebody else. So you want to, but point being, like, you want to find specific things like that you are excited about. Let's say you have a hobby that you love, or you're in, let's just use an example from school. Let's say you are really passionate about conserving the environment. You're on the green team right now in high school, and you've done X, Y, and Z to, do conservation in the community and clean up and raise awareness of environmental issues. And you want to continue to do that on your college campus. Go on their website and look at, well, what do they do? Right? And see if there are opportunities for you there. And that's a great thing that you could mention. So that's just like one example of many, many, many. Okay, I'm going to give you a super specific example. Sometimes they're going to ask you something really specific in the question. And I love using USDs because on the face of it, it might sound really confusing. And this is a clue. So USD offers diverse educational opportunities grounded in the liberal arts and sciences. First-year students are immersed in one of our 5 learning communities with the themes reflecting the vitality of the liberal arts tradition. So it's advocate, collaborate, cultivate, illuminate, and innovate. Select one of these 5 themes and describe how it resonates with you and why. There is a link to this in their questions, so that like that in and of itself is a clue for you to go there to learn, like, what are they talking about? If you don't go to that link and you're like, what does this even mean? Well, I'm an innovator. I think of myself as an innovator. I'm going to go with that one. Perhaps you could write something kind of general along those lines, but this is a really specific thing. So if you go to that link that they're giving you, that is a clue. You're going to find this page. They have a page for every one of their learning communities with information, quotes from students, a video for each one, so that you can understand, like, what is that learning community like? What other students are you going to be around? And how should you speak to your values around that one that you chose? Right? So you're not going to typically find super confusing things like that without clues. All right. We're running a little low on time, so try to get through this as quickly as I can. So it's just some best practices and tips. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is really a match. It is not a prize to win. It is not an accumulation of like, get into as many colleges as possible. It's getting into the colleges are going to match the experience and the place that you want. Make connections in your writing to help colleges understand why you're a good fit for each other. It's not just you fitting them or them fitting you. It is both of those at the same time. Website research, we've talked about a whole bunch, and give yourself a lot of time. Again, same thing as the Common App and UC. I just want to emphasize these things. Think of experiences that have shaped you, experiences that are unique and that few students are likely to write about. Tell your story. We will always say that to students, like in counseling meetings, and the College Career Center staff will always say that. Tell your story. Tell them who you are, the world that you've come from. That is the kind of stuff that they want to know. Make it clear that you've researched, and draw the relevant connections between you and your life and your goals and what the college has to offer. Like, what's the experience that you hope to have there in the future, and help them envision you being there in that context. All right, so how do you prepare for these? Take an inventory of what you've already got. So your current curriculum that's under your belt and that you're in right now, and extracurricular. Do you already have a lot to write about? If you've already done like a whole bunch of activities, maybe perhaps you know what you want to major in, or career that you're really excited for in the future. You've taken a lot of classes that you've found inspiring, things like that. You might already have a lot of material. If you're like, I actually don't know what I want to write about, then you want to take this time. If you're a sophomore, you got a lot of time. Spend junior year, trying to build some experiences. If you're a junior, you're going to be starting to tackle these in not a whole lot of months from now, and they go pretty fast. So think about how you want to spend the rest of this semester and the summer. Summer's a great opportunity. If you feel like you don't have like a strong repertoire of things to write yet, use the summer to participate in some kind of experiences, either around your area of interest, giving back to the community in some way, some area of your life that where there's a lot of room to expand your horizon, where you're going to learn a lot and, might change your views on some things, helps you grow in different ways, things like that. And then also, again, research while you are on summer break. And this is not to say you should be doing college stuff hours and hours a day, but you definitely will benefit going into senior year by spending a lot of time in the summer, starting on your writing and doing a lot of that research. If you don't, going into the summer, if you don't know a lot about your colleges, make the time, because that's going to help you to write these so much better. All right, so that's it. And I know that was a whole lot of information. And we have just a few minutes, but we can take some questions. Let me pull up the chat here. All right, we've got some really good questions. What is the proportional significance of these essays to the overall admissions process, say in comparison to GPA, curricular growth, transcript, or extracurricular activities? Really good question. The answer to those kind of questions is always, it depends. It really depends on the college. If they're asking these questions, it's important to them. It's hard to say like a percentage or an exact number. That would not be something that they would share publicly necessarily. I always think of admissions as like a puzzle, right? So every student is like a little puzzle and a giant jigsaw for every given incoming class. And every college wants to assemble the most diverse class that they possibly can every single year. So the more that you can tell the college about what you are bringing to the table, the more information they have about you, and the more interesting you are, right? So it really does pay off to spend a lot of time on these, because if you're a student who writes that real general thing, like I like this campus because it's pretty, etc., versus other people with a really similar transcript and academic profile, that might give that person an edge if they took the time to really write some strong supplement essays. It's hard to say in terms of proportion or percentage. The transcript and the academics are, you can always think of as like the centerpiece, but the writing really is important. And since COVID, when, a lot of schools have taken like test scores off the table or minimized the importance of test scores, these other things have been more elevated, and they're really looking at not only academics, but like character. So that's where, students can really demonstrate that. Okay, how do colleges know whether I'm telling the truth on my essay? That's a great question. Can't I just make up attention grabbing details or just use Chat GPT? This is a whole bigger conversation. I mean, I suppose you could do that. It would not be a good idea. They're certainly going to be checking using plagiarism tools. Chat GPT, it may write you an essay, but it's not going to be able to write your voice, your personal voice. That is so important. I cannot stress the importance of that enough. College reps are very savvy reading these. They read, thousands and thousands every single year. So it really is to your benefit to put your heart and soul into these if any given college is really important to you. They, to be frank, they can't know if you're really telling the truth, but sometimes colleges may ask you to verify things, like verify experiences, things like that. So you always want to tell the truth. And when you're signing off on an application, you are certifying that you are submitting an application that is truthful to the best of your knowledge. And if they find out otherwise, many colleges will gladly withdraw your application for you. So really do take these to heart as an important part of the application that you should be investing a lot of time in. Okay, take a couple more questions. Will investing in a writing coach provide a significant advantage? If so, at what point should we start engaging with one? It depends on the student. Students who are strong writers don't really need that. Students who struggle with writing overall, potentially could benefit from that. I think students, if they're working really hard in English and they're taking teacher feedback to heart, super helpful. College Career Center is a great place to go for students to start to draft and brainstorm. We are, like at Los Altos right now, we've got a UC personal insight question workshop that's really beneficial. So things like that are great opportunities. When the high schools are offering opportunities, take those opportunities. It can all help, but it's really an individual family decision about hiring an outside coach. Does diversity and uniqueness of experience necessarily mean a student is limited by the demographic, location, school factors over which they have limited control? Again, a really bigger conversation that's kind of out of the scope of this discussion. It just depends. Different colleges are looking for different things in any given year, and the truth is that a lot of it really is out of the student's control. No matter what, a student can pour their heart and soul into an application. They can do everything under the sun, and students still don't get in everywhere. And so, there's a limited amount that a student can do. And I would always say, do whatever you can to make your case. But yeah, there are some factors that are not in the student's control that, whether it's like different diversity factors and things like that. Yeah. For the academic piece, do colleges always weigh freshman year grades differently from 10 through 12, or do some colleges look at the 4-year GPA? So this is, again, it's a different topic. Colleges handle GPA in different ways. Most colleges do look at the freshman GPA. It's UC and CSU that focuses on 10 through 12. All right, we are a little bit over on time, so we're going to wrap it up. Thanks to everyone who attended. If you have other questions, feel free to check in with the College Career Center on your campus, and we will help you all as much as we can. Have a great evening.